For this Madden tips and plays a video breakdown, I'm going to show another blitz setup called 𝗤𝗡𝗆 Blitz 3. It's the zone version of the 𝗤𝗡𝗆 cover 1 I shared last week. What I like about this defense is there are 3 different blitz setups that you can bring heat from 3 different defenders based on how you set it up, which can make things very difficult for your opponent as he won't know who is going to get unblocked. The 𝗤𝗡𝗆 Blitz is a cover 3 defense that brings 5 defenders after the quarterback. It also drops 6 defenders in zone coverage. Now, as far as the playbooks are concerned, you'll find it out of these playbooks as you look at your screen. The playbook that we're going to use for this video breakdown is going to be the Cowboys playbook. Before we get into the 3 blitz setups from the 𝗤𝗡𝗆 Blitz, let's take a look at the coach adjustments that we want to make. And the first one that we need to do here is go ahead and switch off on auto flip defensive play call. The other adjustment is really optional. I'm going to go ahead and set this to base. Now, you don't have to do that. Again, this is optional. So those are the 2 coaching adjustments you'll want to make when running these 3 setups I'm about to show. The only substitution that I'm going to recommend when setting up these particular blitz setups from the 𝗤𝗡𝗆 Blitz 3 is to make sure that you have a fast defensive end lined up at the weak side defensive tackle. So as you look at it at this point, we have Hankins. He's lined up right here as you look at your screen at the weak side defensive tackle position. Now, as I mentioned, you need to have somebody who's got some speed. And with the Cowboys, I have 2 other defenders as far as at the defensive end position that I can move into the weak side defensive tackle. So let's go ahead and take a look at those 2 defenders. Now, the first one's going to be Fowler. Now, overall, he is a 70 overall, but his speed rating is only an 84. I also have another defender that I keep in mind when I set up these type of blitzes, and that's going to be this guy right here, which is Williams. He's only a 68 overall, but he has an 89 speed rating, so I prefer to put him at the weak side defensive tackle position. So that's what I'm going to do. Now, keep this in mind. Whatever team you're using, you want to make sure you have your fastest defensive end, or somebody might be sitting on the bench that you're not starting. Go ahead and replace them with a faster defensive end. That way you can get to the quarterback a lot quicker. The first blitz setup that I want to show out, the 𝗤𝗡𝗆 Blitz 3, it's going to bring some B-gap pressure from the left end who's lined up right here. Now, when you see this one, it's pretty impressive as far as how fast he gets to the quarterback, and he can definitely get there, and that's what I like about this one. So what I'm going to do here is we want to spread the defensive line out. Next, call QB contain, as you see on your screen, and then you want to take control of the middle linebacker. Now, I prefer to get him somewhere where his blitz angle shooting in between the center and the left guard. Now, if everything's set up right, the pressure, as I mentioned, should come through this right here, through that B gap from Lawrence right here to Marcus Lawrence. He should apply the pressure. The key thing that I want to point out here is, obviously, we're not going to blitz this guy. We're not going to have him going in. We're going to drop him back as far as the middle linebacker and try to take away any of the passes over the short middle of the field. So just keep that in mind as I run this blitz. So let's go ahead and do this one and see what happens as far as getting that pressure on the quarterback. And right there, you can see that he shoots right through that B gap, as I told you. Let's go into the X's and O's of this play, and we'll take a look at it a little bit more in detail so you can see how this one works. The key to this blitz working, as far as this setup, is to try to get this center to look to block the middle linebacker. So as you look at your screen here, as I run through this, he's going to look to block that direction there. Now, as I drop the middle linebacker back into coverage, then what's going to happen is the center is going to go ahead and look to block towards the right, but he's going to be too late to do anything because he went here to block first, and then he's going to go over here. And what's going to happen is this guy right here, which is going to be the right guard, initially is going to look to block the strong side defensive tackle, and he's going to try to switch over and try to block the left end, but he's going to be too late because by the time he switches over, the left end is already shot through the B gap as far as getting pressure on the quarterback. So that's the key to this as far as that. And the other thing I want to point out is over here on the outside here, you've got this right tackle. Because I'm in QB contain, he's actually going to go a little bit wider, and throwing the fact that I also spread the defensive line out, that's going to make him go a little bit wider as well, creating a bigger gap for that left end to shoot through as far as with this particular blitz setup. So you can see right there, as I'm just talking about, that's what happens with that one. And as you look at it, the only other thing I want to point out here is as you look at it, you can see that I'm dropping this guy back, this middle linebacker back, trying to take away these two pass routes here out of this mesh spot concept from the gun tied open. You can see right there, I'm dropping back, taking that away. So that's really the idea of this particular blitz setup. Very simple as far as applying the pressure on the quarterback. The second blitz setup that I want to show out of the 46 Bear LB Blitz 3 brings the pressure from the right end through the B gap between the left guard and left tackle. The one thing you want to do here is you want to flip it at the play call screen, such as what I'm showing on your screen. And then let's go ahead and get right on the field here and take a look at this one. So as I mentioned, we went ahead and flipped it. Next thing you want to do is spread the defensive line out. Go ahead and call QB contain. Take control of the middle linebacker here. Now I prefer to get in between the center and the right guard and re-hot route in the blitz. Make sure its blitz angle is shooting right in between. It seems to work better that way as far as getting the pressure. So you can see as you look at it, his blitz angle, as I mentioned, is shooting right through that A gap right here towards the quarterback. Now, the pressure, as I mentioned, is going to come from the right end, who's lined up right here. In this case, it's Parsons. So you're going to do the same thing as you did before. Basically, you're going to fake rush this guy right here, and then you're actually going to drop him back and try to take away anything over the short middle of the field as far as the middle linebacker is concerned. Let's go ahead and run it and see if we get that pressure on the quarterback. Actually ends up getting blocked. So let's do the same thing again here. Usually this one works pretty good. So let's go ahead and run it one more time. Same thing, get right on here. Make sure you flip the play at the play call screen. Sometimes it'll get blocked, which is fine. If that happens, you end up getting that outside pressure. So same thing as far as the setup. As you look at it, we take control of this guy, and you're just going to bring him into that A gap and apply the pressure. Hopefully this time we'll get that pressure on the quarterback. There it goes, right through the middle, and we end up getting the pressure on the quarterback, as you can see. If we go back into instant replay here and take a look at it, you guys will see how this works. Let's go back in the X's and O's. All right, from the top down view, you kind of get a better idea how this one works as far as with the X and O's of the play. Now with this one, it's kind of the same idea. We're just looking to get this center. Rather than looking to block to the left, we want them to block to the right and look to block that middle linebacker. So as you look at this, here's the center right there. As you look at your screen there, he's going to go ahead and look to block towards this guy right here. And that's what's going to cause this thing, as far as the rest of the way the offensive line blocks, allow us to get pressure. So what's going to happen, this guy right here, which is the left tackle, he's going to kick out and look to block this guy. And then to the inside of him, which is the right guard, he's going to look, or excuse me, the left guard, he's going to look to block this guy, which is the weak side defensive tackle. And ultimately, it's going to create a big gap where we can apply pressure on the quarterback with the right end, such as what you see on your screen there. So that's how this one works. And you can see right there, as far as the pressure goes, right there, we're getting at the B gap pressure. And if you look a little bit, as far as this play here, as you look over here, you can see that I'm dropping this guy back into coverage. And there's the center, he's actually following me out. And then I'm just dropping him back to take away anything over the short middle of the field. So that's really the setup with this particular one as far as the second one out of the 46 Bear LB Blitz 3. For our third and final blitz setup that we want to show out of the 46 Bear LB Blitz 3 is we need to go back into the coaching adjustments and turn auto alignment back to default. So let's go ahead and set it to default as you see on your screen. Now we can get back in it and we can show you how to make this blitz work. As far as our third blitz setup is concerned, as far as out of the 46 Bear LB Blitz 3, we're going to look to get some different pressure. In this case, it's actually going to come from the weak side defensive tackle. If you remember right earlier, we went ahead and subbed out a slower defensive tackle in for a faster defensive end, and that's the reason for that. Now, one of the things I want to show you with this particular setup, what makes it unique compared to the other two, is we're actually going to manually move a defensive end out wider, and then when we release him, he's not going to set back to his default position. He'll actually move in maybe just a little bit, but he'll be lined up a little bit different, which is going to create a bigger gap for the weak side defensive tackle to blitz through. So let's go ahead and show you how to do that. First thing you want to do is spread the defensive line out, call QB contain. Those are the first two steps, which is what we've been doing throughout these blitz setups I've been showing. Next thing is you want to switch to the right end. And at this point, you're going to slide him out at least one notch, if not two notches. In this case, I'm able to slide him out two notches. Sometimes you might only be able to slide him out one notch. And then you're going to release him. Now remember, initially he was lined up just outside of the left tackle in this area here. Watch when I release him what he's going to do. See, now he's not quite lined up as far as he was earlier when I first manually moved him out, but he's also not lined up as close to the left tackle in this area here. Instead, he's out here. Again, what we're trying to do is create a bigger blitz gap, or blitz hole, or blitz gap, so that the weak side defensive tackle can shoot through and apply the pressure on the quarterback. So he'll shoot through this gap right here, the B gap between the left guard and left tackle, and apply the pressure on the quarterback. So that's the reason for that. Finally, we're going to take control of the middle linebacker. Now, this is a little bit different than the other setups I've shown. Remember earlier, I kind of put him in between the center and the left guard. Well, in this case, I want to move him over here. At least in the first setup, I put him between the center and the left guard. This time, I want to put him basically just head up over the center. I'm going to go ahead and re-hot route him to blitz. And then you're going to notice as we zoom in here, his blitz angle is still shooting into that direction. But the idea of this is shooting through that A gap. The idea of this is to get this guy right here, this left guard, to look to block him and slide over and block into this area here, creating an even bigger gap, again, for that weak side defensive tackle to shoot through. Let's go ahead and run it and take a look at it and see if it works the way I designed it. And right there, you can see it gets that pressure on the quarterback. And as you look, I drop my linebacker back into pass coverage. Let's go ahead and take a look at this in instant replay and look at the X and O's of the play. From instant replay, I can really show you how the blocking works out. So as I pointed out earlier in the breakdown here, as far as the setup, what I'm trying to do is to go ahead and get this guy right here, which is the left guard. I need him to block to the inside and look to block the middle linebacker, which is the defender I'm in control of. I also want this guy, which is the left tackle, to kick out. And if you remember right, we went ahead and moved the right end further out wide, so we can create a bigger gap for the weak side defensive tackle. In this case, it's going to be this defensive end that we subbed in for him, who can shoot right through this B gap and apply the pressure on the quarterback. So that's the whole reason behind this whole setup. And that's what's going to allow us to get this pressure. So if you watch this, whack, he gets in there real quick. And as you can see how fast that is, pretty fast pressure on the quarterback. Plus, as you're watching here, I'm dropping back this linebacker back in the middle here and taking away these routes. So that's the key to this. And again, if you look at this, you can see that as you look at it, the left guard actually blocks me, which is fine, but then I'm able to get away from him. I'm able to disengage and go back and drop back. So that's the whole key to this. So at any rate, this is another blitz that you guys can run from the 46 Bear LB Blitz 3 that's going to apply pressure on the quarterback. So hopefully these setups will give you guys an opportunity to look at several of these type of defenses that you can run that's going to allow you to put pressure on the quarterback pretty consistently when you run the 46 Bear LB Blitz 3. Now, with that said, I can't guarantee all three of these are going to work every single time. There's some various factors. Or maybe your opponent hot routes some guys that stay in the pass block, maybe does some slide protection, some of the other stuff that's going to change things up. But if you try to run them the way I'm showing you, or at least try setting them up, you guys should have some success with these. So these are some defenses, setups that you can run from the 46 Bear LB Blitz 3 that definitely can bring some B-gap pressure from three different defenders. And that's what we were looking for in this breakdown.